put that chip back in place because I think that's a little bit. Hi folks, and welcome to this episode of The Art of Engineering. We are presently experiencing atrocious weather here in Sydney, and I have, for the first time in living memory, in fact in the first time of written and recorded history, disconnected my antennas. Probably not the safest way of doing it, but at least they're not plugged into the back of any of the equipment, and that's lessening the likelihood of me destroying any of the gear. I must say, been a ham for a little while I was a ham in the early days, never disconnected antennas, but probably something that I should be thinking about as the amount of gear builds up. It would be an obscenity to lose so much of it. But then again, it would be an excuse to go and buy some more stuff. I have been delving back into this little marvel here, the QMX. This was my first go at it. Now, viewers of the channel will know that I ordered a QMX Plus and a QMX, knowing full well I would most likely stuff this up. Like the QCX Mini, it's a very tight build, and like the QCX Mini, my first attempt was a failure. I'm pretty sure I have actually somehow or other managed to cook the main chip, the processor on this thing. I've replaced the buck converters in it. I've checked the wiring, and when you push start on it, you can see the voltages traveling through to the various parts that need to be hit with voltage, but then the thing just doesn't fire up. Kopkun Krap, a ferry store, Parakalor, thank you so much for popping by and watching this video. And if you haven't subscribed, it would mean the world to me if you just reach down and smash that subscribe button, like it's a Morse key, and the like or the dislike as well. Maybe drop me a comment, good or bad. Let's get back to the video. There was a small piece of solder floating around behind the pins on the processor as well from memory, and I think that's probably what's fried the processor. That's my theory. And the other thing is too that I could be trying to find the fault in this and spending hours and hours and hours, or I could just spend another couple of $100 and buy another one and have another crack at it. What's your time worth? Well, you all know crazy old me. I don't care what my time's worth. I had to get in there and find out what was causing the problem. Otherwise, I'm not going to sleep at night. So rather than sleeping at night, I started digging into it. And while we're on the subject of being a crazy person, this was the desoldering station and soldering iron that I ordered through DigiKey. I'm pretty sure I clicked that Australian flag. I can't see any reason why I would click the American one. But what I got through the mail was one of these, with one of these round earth plugs and these straight prongs, which suggested to me that perhaps it was the 110 version. Now, at first I thought, not a problem. These days, most of the time, you just click a switch on the back and get an adapter and off you go. Well, not on this one. This is a 110 volt version, and any sane person would have just chucked it back in the box and said, DigiKey, what are you doing? Send me the proper one. That whole rigmarole of having to put it in the box, take it to the post office, do all that sort of stuff. It's just so much easier to do a naff way of getting around it. So I have ordered a step down transformer. And a lot of people will say, well, gee, more stuff in the shack that you don't need to have, more expense. Hear me out here. I was thinking that perhaps the unit that I have organized, it's on its way, has two outlets on it for 110 volts. It's the 1000 watts. This is a 500 watt iron. And I was just thinking, if I ever do get some gear from overseas that's designed for 110 volts, I've got an outlet for it. So that is the reasoning behind being too lazy to send it back to the post office.
Moments later.
It's arrived. I think it was about $85. So yes, we're spending money. But you know, a bit of retail therapy. We will be cleaning the floor up shortly, so that's where it's going. Let's have a look at what this looks like. Step down, 240 to 110. This is the larger model. Well, I am in total shock and disbelief because I think I found out why my QMX is not working, or at least something that's caused the short circuit in the 3.3 volt line. And if the 3.3 volt line is not working, it's not going to start. Now, this component might have failed because of 10,000 other things that went wrong as well. So I'm not dumb enough to believe that this is going to solve my problem. But after removing the button, which we know is working, and the screen, and the two buck converter boards, we still had a direct short to ground on the 3.3 volt line. So I started running through the schematic, and I'm going to show you what I found. I'm a little bit excited. So this is the schematic for the main board in the QMX. And up here, we've got our TCXO. And I started looking for components that could short to ground, and I was hoping it wasn't going to be the CPU, because the CPU can cause that, and lots of other components can cause that. But I thought, let's start simple first. And came up into the TCXO, and I started looking at these capacitors here, 201 and 202. 201 and 202. 202 is, if I go directly across it, it's a capacitor. But 201 is a dead short. And if you're directly across 201, you can only you could be across the chip. So this IC202 could be the fail point as well. If I take that capacitor out and I still have a dead short, I will know that it's most likely this IC202. And then I'm going to have some issues, I would say. But, you know, it's better than it being the CPU. But fingers crossed it's actually going to be that capacitor, because it's just supply decoupling. I can probably remove it and leave it out. Well, we've got the SMD rework station going, and I ended up pulling off the capacitor. Still had a short, but of course the capacitor's across the supply line, so of course it's going to be a dead short. Anything across the supply line is going to be a dead short because the supply line's a dead short. But we took the TCXO chip off as well, so we now know that that's not the culprit. We now know that that capacitor is not the culprit. 64 million other chips to go. Now I could just rip off the main CPU, and if the fault clears, I'll know that that's where the problem lies. But I might go for some smaller components that might be likely contenders, and see if we can work out. Good practice anyway. Well, it's pretty daft that I didn't actually check those supply lines for shorts to start with. Dumb on my part, poor processes. As for the 201 and 202 capacitors, well, if they're both across the supply line, then they should have been a short circuit, obviously. So I misrecognized C202. It was actually another capacitor that was not across the supply line. And so after removing the TCXO and that capacitor, I was very tempted to start just lifting legs on various chips and seeing if we can isolate the fault. But I still had that sneaking suspicion, because of what I found on the CPU, that piece of metal that had been floating around, that was most likely the culprit. So threw caution to the wind, and we removed the processor. Okay, folks, the rework station's cooling down, and we have got the chip off the board, and had a bit of flux on there, and the solder mask just, went pop, 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 pop. All the shorts disappeared on the tracks. I didn't even have to put any wick on it. And of course, the moment I need to use it, it starts to muck up on me. And so if we test now to see whether we've got continuity on the dreaded third hole from the left on the board. So if we check the third hole from the top, from the left-hand side, before we were getting a short circuit. But now we are getting an open circuit. So that tells me that our chip was causing the short circuit. Now, that may have been, a stray whisker got in there and shorted it out. Who knows? All I do know is that this had a short in it to ground for the 3.3 volt. Now, I did try reflowing it. I did try checking every single pin before I removed it, but the original assumption was correct. And I don't think I'm going to try and put that chip back in place because I think that's a little bit too much of an ask for me. But at least I know what was wrong. Well, folks, thanks for sticking around right to the end of the video. I got in touch with QRP Labs and I'm waiting for the response. It's a Sunday, so I'm not expecting a response that rapidly, obviously. I basically said to Hans, if you've got a processor, willing to pay for it, please send it. I've got a sneaking suspicion that those CPUs most likely arrive on the board and then he loads the firmware onto them. I can't see how they would have firmware in them if they're just separate chips, unless there's some way of doing it with them outside of the board. So I've got a sneaking suspicion that I won't be able to get hold of a chip, in which case I will just hold on to this unit here. If there's anyone who could comment in the comment section below where I might be able to find a chip with the firmware on it, I think someone did have a batch of them. I don't know how they managed to do that, but that would be great. But if QRP Labs is able to get me a chip, I will order that chip. And while I'm there, I'll probably get a QCX Mini for 20 meters and maybe even a QMX for the higher bands as well. So while these things are available and while they're so cheap, who knows what's going to happen in the future? Things can change, prices can go up, dollars can go down. So while the equipment's very, very affordable and available, I probably will be buying some kits and putting them aside for future enjoyment. I mean, the thing about building your own is obviously there's problems, but you learn along the way and you have a great time. If your definition of a great time is mental torture. 7-3, and I shall see you in the next episode of The Art of Engineering, when the next episode is going to be a complete pimping up of the workbench so that it's actually a usable space.